there, Vault Dwellers. Follow us as we take a topic from the Fallout universe and discuss it in a group of diverse individuals. We are the Fallout Roundtable. Join us, the conversation has already started.
Hello, and welcome to the Fallout Roundtable. I think we decided we're calling this the episode Rewind. I am Sassy Lady. This is Sulior, and we're going to talk about the Fallout on Prime TV show, episode 3.
Yes.
Yes. So let's see. We left off with Lucy cutting off a head.
Yep,
right?
with the Ripper.
With her Ripper, yeah. So, well, first, before we get started, I guess I should do the thing. You can find our show on Twitter at FalloutRTB. Email us, falloutrtb@gmail.com, and let us know what your ideas are, what you think, what you took away from the show. Do you like it? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you want, what do you want to see in season 2? What do you think about the characters? Did Nolan nail it? What do you think?
We could talk about it all day.
Right. I mean, obviously, we could talk forever. So shoot us a DM, shoot us an email, whatever makes you happy. You can hit up Eric at IanGold08.
Yep. 08.
On Twitter, or you can get me at Sassylady1103, I think. Guess what I am on Twitter. And, we're happy to chat about the Fallout show all day long. I mean, seriously, we're enamored with it. So, and yeah, there's things that we feel like that could have been a little better, or there's things that we thought were just freaking fantastic. So, we're happy to chat about it. So you can do that. And anyway, so back to episode 3, we left off with Lucy cutting off a head. Girl's got some guts, I gotta say.
Which is funny considering how, naive and innocent she was.
Sheltered, yeah. She comes straight out of the vault. He hands her a Ripper, and she's like, okie dokie. I mean, I don't know if I could have done that. I work in the biz. So I don't know. I've seen chests cut open, and I don't know if I could do that.
I've helped some dental surgeons back in the day. I've got a technical certificate for dental assisting, and I insisted on interning at a surgeon's office. So I helped out with extractions and bone grafts and all sorts of stuff.
So he's going to be the barber there in Philly that you can, sell your teeth to.
Yep, something like that.
He'll buy your teeth. In the apocalypse, that's how he's going to make caps. He's going to buy your teeth, and he's going to probably do minor surgery on you if you are willing to take a chance. That's Eric's post-apocalyptic job.
That you can cut off part of your tongue. It's not,
like, oh, you broke your foot. Well, let's just cut it off.
Yep, I can use it to for somebody else who needs one.
Exactly, which we'll see later. Could happen.
Foreshadowing.
Right. So we start off. The thing that I like about this episode is we see a little more about Cooper Howard. We see more of the pre-war world. That's a hard thing to say fast.
I thought that was interesting. Yeah, you see him filming a scene,
Yeah.
And he didn't want to kill the guy. He's like, yeah, my character wouldn't do this.
Right. So
but he's wearing the Vault Tech colors. So like he's wearing what he wore on Bombs Drop Day.
Well, yeah, because apparently this is his signature look. His signature look is the blue shirt with the yellow fringe or the gold fringe, whatever it is. And this is what he wears in his movies as a, what is he, sheriff. He says, I'm the sheriff. I don't kill suspects or whatever. And he's, because you start out and he's literally doing this scene and he's saying something, and I don't know Spanish very well. And he says a Spanish phrase, and it literally means something like, you're ugly, you're a coward, I don't know, something. But he's talking to his suspect.
I'd have to hear it again because I actually do know a little bit.
Yeah, and I thought about writing it down and trying to repeat it, but I'm like, well, who am I kidding? I'm terrible at Spanish. So I'm like, I don't want to offend anybody and have people going, God, you're stupid. I was like, please don't. You see everybody like, stop trying. So, and girl I work with would be one of the first because she is Latina, and she'd be like, oh, please don't. Like, well, you should have come on with me.
They appreciate it when you attempt, at least, like you show interest and learning.
Mhm.
So
Well, we do have a lot of people. I'm so happy that she does work with me because I don't have to struggle anymore. I'm just like, come here. It's nice. No more having to whip out Google Translate for me. But he, he's in character. He's doing his thing, and all of a sudden he just stops and he
Mhm.
looks over and he's like, "Do I really have to kill him?" And it's funny that he just stops and says this, and then everybody's like, "Cut, cut, cut,"
Yeah.
because that was obviously he had an issue with it.
Mm.
The ghoul, the most famous
Yeah.
bounty hunter, the best bounty hunter,
Yeah, he
and
doesn't
here
care
he is
now.
like, "Do I have to kill him?" And he explains to the director, or whoever he is, producer, I don't know. This is not what my character does. I'm the sheriff. I don't kill people. I just arrest them, whatever. This is but the thing that I took from this scene is,
It,
they decide to, take 10 or do lunch or whatever. And you see him, the guy's laying on the ground because that was his position in the blocking for the scene.
right.
And he's, Cooper Howard's like helping him up, like, "Oh, hey man, great job in your scene, you did a great," he's complimenting the performance, he's helping the guy get up off the floor. And then he's talking about how he doesn't necessarily agree with the change that his character has taken in the film. And what I see in him is a very kind man, someone who's very conscientious
Yeah.
to his fellow people, which goes completely against the grain of what you've seen so far of the ghoul, and especially like how he treats Lucy,
Yeah.
how he
It's
treats, he's a shoot first, ask questions later kind of guy, just kind of pushing his way into everything. So there has been some major things that have happened
yeah.
that have changed him
Wasteland
so
really wore
much.
him down over the last 220
Right.
years or
So
19.
like major and a lot, you see a lot of people that have gone through a lot of things, but it doesn't change them. Like it might make them stronger, it might make them more, but it doesn't like reverse their personality
Right.
per se. But in this case, it kind of has. He's a completely different person than what he was pre-war.
Oh,
She's fine. She's fine. We both have poochies in the background.
no idea what that was about. Come here.
Just being protective. Mine's whining about something and I have no idea what. I think she's just freaking out because I'm the only one home and I'm busy and she's not being coddled. So we
She'll
see
bark at a
him,
leaf
he's
outside.
talking to his producer that he does not like this direction. And he finds out that he's like, "Well, where's Bob? Bob, his writer. Where's Bob? What does he have to say about this?" Well, we find out that Cadillac Bob got fired
Yep.
for being a communist.
He's like,
And he's
wait,
just
what?
blown away.
Really?
And this reminds me of like McCarthyism, especially in Hollywood,
Yeah.
where it's like, he's a communist, she's a communist. And then everybody was being accused and it didn't matter. And that's
Yep. Red
probably,
Scare.
probably that was still going on then. I mean, we know this is 2077, thereabouts.
Yeah, the Cold War became a very real thing in the Fallout timeline.
But it was different. But I think they kept that whole McCarthyism thing where it's like, you're a communism, he's a
Yep.
everybody's a communist. And I think that maybe what they're trying to portray is that McCarthyism never died. Like it never went away. That whole, you're going to be persecuted if you're a communist, or if you're suspected of being a communist, then you're going to be persecuted. I think that part must have stayed.
Yeah.
And that's very 50s. That was rampant, right at the end of the war. Um, Especially in Hollywood. I don't know why, for some reason it was really big in Hollywood. And I don't know, maybe it's just because everybody knew about it more, more publicized or something because it was Hollywood.
Yeah.
But we
Didn't
find
they?
out that that's why. And then the producer explains to Cooper that they're going to go in this direction because it's what Americans want. They want to see that even a good man can be driven to his limits, and to see that he's going to take a stand in this new America. And so you can tell Cooper's not really sold on it, but he decides to let's just put a pin in that because he sees an attractive woman over by the craft services.
Yep.
And you see a really sweet scene where they're being a little flirtatious over some lavender taffy. Like, ew.
I
Lavender
know this is
taffy.
typically an old woman's
It's an
flavor, but
old
it's really
women's
good.
scent, but it's really rather flirtatious. Um, so they're flirting, and you can see he's still very much in love with his wife. They're still very newlywed, like, you
Yeah,
know,
this was before they split, obviously.
well, right. And then you see the daughter run up. So they've been together for a while because she's like what, 8,
Something like that. Yeah,
6 to 8,
she's
somewhere in that neighborhood. She's not a baby, but she's not very old. She's definitely not over 10, I wouldn't think. So she runs up, and the wife reminds, her name's what, Barb, and
yes,
she
Barb.
reminds Coop that they have to meet with the photographer, and she hands him a box. It's his costume change for the photographer, and
Hmm.
he takes a look at it and he says, "Oh, they did it in my color." So
Yeah, yeah. So they modeled the colors after what he typically wears, which I thought was
right,
very interesting.
well, because this is the origin story, right? And this
Yeah,
is this
yeah.
is what we find out. So we were promised the Vault Boy origin story.
Hmm.
So we but then, so we see them kind of walk off together, and then we shoot back to present time. Here's the ghoul. He's standing over uh Wilzig's body, minus the head, and he's looking at it, and he's, figuring out what happened, kind of piecing the puzzle together. And it's kind of like is he impressed that Lucy managed to pull that off?
She doesn't think it was him. She thinks it was Maximus or some, or no, no, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of
No,
myself.
that was
That was
Thaddeus.
Maximus playing, yeah.
Maximus
Sorry,
assumed
got a
it
little
was the
ahead of
ghoul.
myself there.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
I'm
he's
I'm
he
sure that I'm sure the ghoul knew it was her because he knew that Wilzig had left with her because he was
yeah.
with Maximus. So he knows it's not Maximus. So he's, we see him coughing a little bit. He uses his inhaler with the vial that we saw him fiddling with. So we
Yeah, he
don't know what
was
it is,
coughing a lot. Yeah,
but
is
we know that it's something that he needs for some sort of illness or something that he needs to maintain. Anyway, you know, he uses that, and it's just kind of, at this point in time, it's just kind of an interesting thing. We're just like, okay. And he looks around, and we see him. He sees the donut shop, or what we assume is the Slocum Joe's.
yeah, yeah. It's
And
clearly a
I mean,
donut
we don't
shop
see
because the
signage.
sign
I
looks
didn't
like a
see any
donut.
signage or anything. I just saw the big donut, which
Yeah,
wears
you
the
just see the
Slocum
donut.
Joe's. But he sees tracks, so he follows. Now he does have 4 with him. He does have
Yep, he's got the dog.
Wilzig's dog. So, and we know he's going to use Wilzig's dog to try and track Wilzig. So
Yeah, it's probably how they found her in the
how he
first
found him in the
place.
first place. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, even though he can follow her footprints, it could eventually be anybody's. So he's got Wilzig's dog, and they go off. And is that where he said, "Let's go find Daddy"? Or no, it was before. I don't know. So they take off, and so then we shoot to uh, Lucy, and they're playing "Maybe" by the Ink Spots.
hmm.
And she's just trotting along, holding Wilzig's head by the hair. Yeah, just
I
icky.
thought maybe she'd put it in her
Not
backpack or
yet.
something,
No,
but no.
the first time she's just holding it by the
Yeah,
hair.
she's just carrying it by the hair
And
and
I'm just like, won't that attract flies and stuff? I mean, ew.
something
But
like yeah.
you see her walking amongst ruins, and she kind of climbs the top like a hill type thing, and you just see like a shot of, you can see like the city in the background, and there's just so many ruins. It all looks so good, like
Yeah.
abandoned,
Really
broken
well
down
done.
housing, just really cool looking stuff. It just looks so on point. It looks really good. There's a pano of the city, and it's still hazy. You know, I guess the smog never goes away. So we see her. Then she's kind of was. I don't remember if she had a fire or not now, because I remember Wilzig was
I
telling her no fires.
yeah, I thought she did, but maybe she didn't.
I don't remember now.
But I
But
yeah, she
she's
was
eating her
eating.
yum yum deviled eggs.
Yeah.
I don't know how this girl exists on just deviled eggs, but all right. She is a skinny thing. She's eating her yum yum deviled eggs. Not even the whole box. I mean, she ate
No,
like
it was
what,
like one or
two the
two.
night
Yeah.
before. She's eating like two now. She just keeps, I don't know how she's doing it. But she starts messing with the head and she's like, "What are your secrets?" And she gets a little zap when she grabs him. Like she just kind of grabs
Yeah,
the
right there
head
at
like
the
you
base of
would.
the neck, by
Yep. And
like
right
behind his
behind his
ear.
ear, she gets a little zap from the chip or whatever he
Yeah,
implanted.
whatever he
Yeah,
implanted,
whatever he
it
implanted back
was.
there, if it's a chip or whatever, she gets a little zap from it. So that surprises her. She tries to figure it out, but she can't. She knows it's embedded. So she says, "All right, sir, keep your secrets." And she decides, just for added security, she has some sort of tracking device in her Pit Boy.
Yeah,
So she sets it up and she shoves the little tracker up his nose, snug as a bug.
I thought that was kind
And
of funny too.
And I thought that was cute. Yeah, she's not squeamish at all. She just shoved that sucker right up his nose just to be on the safe side. And then she sits there and just has a chat with the head about, well, that night he really was something.
Yeah, she
I
starts
wonder who he
daydreaming about
was.
Maximus.
Like they're just girlfriends chatting with a
Hmm.
head. Like, all right, girl. I mean, I get it. There's nobody else to talk to. I guess it's better than talking to yourself. Girl needs a dog.
It's her version of Wilson from
There
Castaway.
you go. Yeah, what's worse, talking to a beach ball or talking to your head? I mean, to be fair, Tom Hanks did turn it into a head. Put your face on
Yep.
it. So now we're with Max, and because we were just dreaming about Max, we were just, oh, I wonder who he was. So now we're seeing Max, and he's dragging his power armor suit to up on a hoist to fix it. And he's finding the parts he needs to fix it after the big fight with the ghoul. And he gets a radio message from base trying to hail Titus because Titus
Hmm.
missed his check-in. So he decides to impersonate Titus. Or this is Night Titus.
It's like,
Well, they buy it. And they're
allegedly,
like,
yeah.
"Where have you been?" "Oh yeah, well, we were attacked. And my scribe is dead. He has fallen.
Yeah.
And he died. He died with
In,
honor
in glory and
and glory."
honor and
And then I'm like,
right, dude. That should have been
anybody
a
who
clue real
knows
quick.
Titus would be like, "Who is this?"
Right? Yeah, that guy was a fucking moron.
Like, this doesn't sound like Titus at all. So, oh, that was pretty funny. So they're like, "No problem, we'll get you a replacement." He's like, "No, no, 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 I'm good. No, no, that's fine. We got plenty of scribes. We'll send you another one."
Yeah, they're
So
just
he's
cannon
like,
fodder, essentially.
yeah, so now he's freaking out because they're going to send somebody and he's going to be found out. So he rushes off to get his part repaired. So he rushes into Philly. He goes to see a repair person. And this is something we've never seen before.
No, you always do the repairs yourself. Well, I
Well,
mean,
there's
you
that.
can
Well, I
pay
mean,
for
you can
people,
get it
but
repaired.
the
No, what
people,
I'm
yeah.
talking about is the chick, the repair girl. We've never
Oh, yeah,
seen.
she had like a voice modulator, didn't she?
Yeah. We've not seen that in Fallout. I mean, we've seen like
Yeah, I mean,
robot repair people. We've seen synths. We've seen,
I
people.
mean, there's
I've never
Weasel in
seen.
76 who has the
Well,
voice
okay, yeah,
thing.
and there was, yeah, there is. What was her name? She's on the Raider quest line when you have to go find
Yeah,
uh,
Weasel.
Weasel.
Yeah.
She wears the collar, which reminds me of the collar for the dogs and Up, so that the dogs
Where's the
can
girl?
talk. That's what it
Squirrel.
reminds me of. Um, but and you know, but it's like it's this thing attached. Was it attached to her cheek? I think.
Yeah, yeah, it was like
But
kind
it
of
made
along
her
her
voice
jawline.
sound like a robot. So.
Yeah,
So she says, she can fix it, but he's a cap short and she won't
which
take
his
less.
caps were in his boot. There has to be a more comfortable
He
place. Like,
doesn't have pockets, apparently.
I
I
would
mean, he
not want
has
to
a
be
lot of
walking on bottle
rings
caps.
on. That was the thing. And it was funny because Aaron Moten, however you say his name, he had mentioned like when they were talking about, oh, what do you think of your costumes? And he was like, oh, it looked so cool, but I didn't know what all the clamps, whatever the rings and things were for.
Yeah.
We still don't know, but apparently
No.
his jumpsuit has no pockets. So his
Yeah, and
caps
I'm
were in
like,
his boot, which
that.
you
Yeah,
think
that
would
sucks.
cut into your foot and not be
Yeah,
very comfortable, but that's where he kept them. But he only had 4, so maybe that was okay because he didn't have
and
enough
maybe he
money,
had them flipped over to where they weren't digging into him.
and making
But
sure they stay that way is
yeah,
probably not easy. Maybe his boots are super tight, but he was short, so she said, "Nah," she wasn't gonna do it for less. So he spies the sign, "We buy teeth."
hmm
So I guess it's insinuated that he sells a tooth and comes back with
at
some more
least
money, and
one because he gave her extra
yeah, that was the
so she,
best.
so she could do
There's an
it
extra
quickly.
cap in it if you do it fast, and she's like, "Okay," and it
All
looks
right.
like the repair, like, took a second anyway.
Yeah, she's like, here you go.
She just,
Didn't
like,
even really
zaps
do
the
anything.
thing and it's done. So, she got an extra cap for basically
Yeah,
something that
she's
didn't take any
a
time
very
anyway.
good negotiator.
He's not.
No,
He is
he's not.
not.
She is.
Yeah, I mean, well, she didn't even ask for extra, like, "I'll do it fast if you give me extra." She didn't say, she just didn't take less for her work, but he offered, she was like, "Okay." She wasn't gonna say like, "No, that's not necessary," you know? So he gets his piece, he gets that fixed, and he starts to head back to his power armor.
hmm
Does he make it back to the power armor before he hears No, 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 he goes back to the power armor and there's raiders.
Yeah,
So
there were
his
like
his
what, four or
armor's
five
being
raiders
jacked,
all
basically.
like.
They're trying to I don't know if they're trying to jack the power armor or strip it, I'm not sure which,
Yeah, I don't think they really
because,
say.
it's kinda like when you leave your car on the side of the road, then you come back and there's nothing left. Um, that's basically it. So he's now in a fight because he just walks up and does the "Leave the power armor alone." Of course they comply
Right.
because this is the wasteland. No, so basically the short guy turns around and says, "Oh yeah, I got my buddy big dude over here and my other buddy bigger dude over here, and they're
Yeah,
not
one of
gonna
those
leave me
guys is
alone."
huge.
Yeah, they were big guys. So they get in a big fight. And we already know that Maxis is not the greatest in fights, especially when he's ganged up on. And it goes about the way you would think. So they pummel him and leave him laying on the ground by some abandoned shack or whatever. Not too far away, but they just leave him laying on the ground. They go back to the power armor. Well, he gets enough wherewithal together to pick up a wrench and a toilet seat.
All them random things to.
Toilet seat.
Yeah.
Sure. I know. And the first thing my husband says is, "Well, you should have done that in the first place."
Yep.
So now we're playing some Johnny Cash because Johnny Cash got to get you in a fighting mood. And he starts off doing okay. He's
Yeah.
smacking some heads with the wrench. He's got somebody mixed up with a toilet seat. I don't even know what but he's doing okay. But again, he gets overpowered because there's just too many guys. But fortunately, this time they managed to have him up against the power armor.
hmm
So fortunately for him, he reaches his arm into one of the power armor arms and he manages to get control of the hand. And this is where it gets squishy, as I was telling you. My husband was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, this
that
is
that
squishy."
that that
He,
was pretty
he pops the little
head
guy's
topper.
head with his power armor hand, pops it like a squash. And that kind of freaked out one guy. And then I forget how we got rid of the I don't know, but the fight's over eventually, because he managed to get an upper hand. A lot of it just by showing what he can do with his power armor, and that you know
Yeah, and
somebody got dead, and a couple other guys were already taken out by him and his wrench. So he managed to get himself out of that just in time, because as he's trying to regroup himself because he's exhausted, he hears a vertibird coming.
he's like, oh shit, here we
But
go.
like a weirdo, instead of just putting on your power armor and being prepared, he goes running into Philly to see who's dropped off. Like,
Yeah, it's
why?
like, who else would it be? They said they were
Well,
sending somebody.
yeah, because I mean, the only person that we know that he really talks to is Dane, and Dane can't do it because Dane's injured. So, like, did it matter? Because Dane was the only one who didn't beat on him. So who did it matter who it was? It didn't. But he, he does this. He finds out that it's Thaddeus that gets lowered down into the middle of Philly with his big old bag. And so he goes running back and he gets in his power armor just in time for Thaddeus to show up and do his Thaddeus, Sir Thaddeus, I am your knight,
Carrying that huge golf bag.
with that humongous bag that he could live in. Yep.
Did he need that? He already had like all of the weapons from before, but I guess they all
I
get
don't know
their
what
own
happened
golf
to
bag.
those. He must have left them where he left Titus, because we never saw that bag again after he got the power armor, after he took it.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have all that stuff. It's probably back in the woods with the dead Yagwai. As far as I know, back there with
Yeah,
Titus.
that's true. I guess maybe he didn't grab it. I don't know. 'Cause it's not the night thing to do.
Why would he carry it around? Right. It's
Yeah.
not my job. I'm not a squire anymore. So he doesn't say anything to Thaddeus. Because I think he's afraid he'll reveal himself. So he's just standing there. And so Thaddeus starts groveling. He's like, "Oh, have I said something wrong, sir? Blah, 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 blah. What have I done to offend? Oh my gosh, blah, blah." So what does Max do?
Clean this.
Yeah. So Maximus is enjoying this. So he pulls off his little crotch plate, throws it at Thaddeus, says, "Clean this," because, hey, why not get a little comeuppance? Because this guy used to beat him up.
Yep.
And this is the way he was treated when he was, I guess that was his orientation or whatever, his initiation.
Something like that. Yeah.
So he might as well let this guy be treated the way he was treated. So apparently he's enjoying this. But Thaddeus took it a lot better than Maximus did, didn't he? He was like, "Of course,
he was like,
of course, sir."
Why not? I mean,
he was like,
my job.
"Absolutely, I will do this for you. This is my lot in life. This is what I'm here for." But he also had news. He had news to deliver. He said, my sir, whatever, we are not the only ones looking for the target. And we
which
are
we
to
do
kill,
know is Wilsig.
We are to kill anyone in our way, which he already knows who's with Wilsig. And I guess we're guessing that it's not a one-sided interest that Lucy has. So I think Maximus is maybe a little interested in Lucy too, and I don't know that he relishes killing her. Maybe. I could be reading into that, but he didn't seem super thrilled to get that news.
Yeah, because exactly. Because that means he and Lucy clearly had some sort of connection, and he saw Wilsig with her, so he's like, "Okay, here we go."
Yeah, he knows. He knows that she has Wilsig. And I felt like they had a moment, when they were, after he smashed her through that building, it was like, oh, they had little star-filled eyes and stuff. And I'm sure he's trying to get back to her, and that's one reason why he was like, "You stay with this guy and keep safe," because he's trying to keep them both safe for himself, it seems like. But I don't think he knew that she knows that, or that this guy is important to her. So
he just knows that they were together. He doesn't know that at this point that Wilsig's dead.
No, he does not. He assumes that they're off together somewhere.
Yeah.
So now we come to Lucy at Hollywood Boulevard, which is just a very flooded out, ruined area, but looks fantastic. I thought that was one of the cooler sets, just because, it was simple, but very cool. Just, I guess, because just thinking this is Hollywood Boulevard, like, wow. Yeah. So it's all flooded and ruined. And, Lucy is approaching the water and she sees a deer and she offers it grass. But the weird thing is it's not a radstag.
No, it's irradiated. It's normal.
Yes, it's a fawn. It's Bambi. It's not a radstag. Come on.
Which, the only other non-mutated
do they grow into them? Does the head grow later? What happens?
I don't know, because we saw a normal-looking goat too in Philly. I'm like,
chickens are normal.
Mutated?
Well, chickens are normal.
Goats, deer.
Yeah, chickens are normal in 76. They're just like naked.
They're featherless. Yeah,
naked chickens. And we don't have goats, so I don't know what they would look like, but I can't imagine that everything else is irradiated except the goats, right? Like
Right. I
everything's
mean,
mutated, but goats are
and
not.
apparently
We
this
saw
year,
we saw a Brahmin and it looked good. They had
yeah,
a
the
Brahmin and
Brahmin
it
was
had two
awesome.
heads and it looked gorgeous. It was an actual real. I mean, it looked good. So here we have a deer with one head, little, you know.
Yeah.
But the little creatures they had later was pretty cool. So
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was just
I'll let
to
it slide.
set up the drastic shift in what happens.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, to be
like,
fair,
oh, look at the baby. Oh my
the
God.
poor little non-mutated baby didn't last long. Spoilers.
No.
So she offers it grass, but she hears the creature sound, roar, gulp, whatever it was that it made, whatever, however you describe that sound. She hears a noise, and little deer disappears, sucked into the water. And so she sees this and she's like, oh my gosh. So she's running, except somehow this thing is not in the water anymore. It's on the other side and it's chasing her. And it tries to grab her, but it just gets her backpack, but manages to get, because she's now got Wilzig's head wrapped in a blanket stored on top of her backpack. Well, it grabs her backpack and Wilzig's head, which of course is probably what it was smelling. It was smelling dead meat, probably, and like, that smells delicious. I
Yeah.
want dinner. And so it grabs the head. So she watches it swims off, and she's just like, there goes the way to my dad. And even though she hears her Geiger counter going off near the water, she's contemplating going after it. So she takes off her backpack, and I think she's taken off her shoes or something, or getting ready to. You can tell that she's been injured. She's got a gash on her shoulder that she probably got from this thing grabbing at her backpack. That's the only way I think that she would have gotten it. She's not really been in that big a tussle. I don't think she got it in Philly. It wasn't in that big of a.
No, I don't.
I don't remember
Yeah,
seeing it
because she
before
didn't.
that.
If she would have used it against the ghoul rather than the stupid syringer.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing her with a gash. But she's getting ready to go in the water. She hears a gun cock behind her. So she slowly turns around and she says, hello again. And it's the ghoul who's got a gun on her, and he doesn't even like talk to her. He just pistol whips her.
Yeah, he's
He's
all
not
business.
messing around. He's just like, give it to me. And she's like, I don't have it. I don't have it. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have it. And he's dumping her backpack out. He's rummaging through her stuff. Her poor deviled eggs are thrown all over the place. Like,
Hmm.
should have eaten them all because now they're not worth anything. It's just like everything is gone. And she's like, I lost it. I lost it. I don't know where it is. Well, that's half true.
Yeah, and then he finds the gulper shit.
Yeah, was it shit or eggs? I wasn't sure.
It was shit. Yeah,
So
he
he
stepped
walks
in it
over and he
and yeah.
steps in something and he's kind of spreading it around with his boot and he's like, the gulper got it, huh? So she's just looking at him and you're just like, yeah, dude ain't dumb. He is not dumb.
No, he's pretty perceptive.
Didn't they give him like an intelligence of 4 or something? It's like,
Something
and
like
I
that.
forget
Yeah.
what his perception was, but I'm like, he gotta be higher than that.
Yeah.
He is not, he knows what's going on.
I mean,
So
yeah, he
now,
has to have high intelligence and perception based on what happens later on in the show. Like he
right.
recognizes some people.
Oh, he
So,
does. And after
mhm,
200 years, I mean, I forget people after 2 days. So,
right.
you know,
I'm not
like,
around you on a
yeah,
daily
he's
basis. I'll
definitely,
eventually
of course,
forget your
he's
name.
had a lot of time to obsess about certain things. So now we're back in the vault and we're hearing, we'll meet again. I think that's the ink spots, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's ink spots. And it reminds me of sitting outside the principal's office. So Norm is sitting out in the hall and Chet comes out of a room and he looks very
You can
dejected.
hear him crying
Is that
in
what it
the
was? Yeah, I was thinking,
yeah.
I'm like, it looks
He
like
was
he's
like
gonna cry, and I guess he was
sobbing
crying.
like at the top of his lungs.
Yeah, yeah. And Norm's like, well, how did it go? And Chet says, well, he's no longer the keeper of the gate. He just doesn't know who he
Yeah,
is anymore.
they weren't happy about him letting Lucy out of the vault.
Right.
So
And it's just, oh my gosh. I mean, it's like, oh, you poor Chet. Like your identity is like, I get to open and close the door
exactly, yeah,
that we
he
never open
puts
and
like
close.
that was his entire identity,
But we
was
never
being
open
the
it.
gatekeeper.
Yeah. It's like
Right.
my
So it's
identity
like,
is wrapped up in something that I never
and
get
just
to do.
standing around like
Right. But I also never get to do this. I will never get to do it because we'll never open the doors because it's not safe. It's like, well, you got to do it one time in your life, and he's like, oh, I lost my privileges. I don't know who I am. He didn't say what his job was, though, what his reassignment was, did he?
no, he didn't say. So he's
And I,
like,
and I don't remember ever seeing him like work again. So I mean, is that possible? Like, you don't have to work anymore.
yeah,
Okay.
just enjoy it.
Right. So then they call Norm in. Norm, you're next. And it totally reminds me of principal's office. So he's sitting across from
Pretty
the
much,
three,
yeah.
the three,
What do you have to say
and
for yourself?
right. So you could have endangered this entire vault, and you see the poster. I think this is the first time. Is it the first time we see the poster that shows how the three vaults are connected?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that was a big thing because we've never seen connected vaults before. And now they're showing how 31, 32, and 33 are connected. It's like a big triangle, which interestingly enough, I thought 31 should have been at the top and 32 and 33 at the bottom.
Did
But
they
that's,
really mention 31 before this? Because they
well, you
mentioned
hear you hear about
32. Like you hear about
31.
32, but I don't
You know that
remember.
there is a 31, but we don't,
Right, yeah, because I
but
think Norm
they
did
didn't talk a
discover
lot about it
information
just
about it.
because of the fact that everything was happening with 32. But you know that 31 is a thing, but they don't
Right.
really talk
Yeah,
about it
that's true.
because
Um
they're not doing anything with them. So um I love Norm. I have to say I love
he's like
Norm.
the biggest smart
I
ass. It's
He
like,
speaks to my soul. I love him because, they're like, are you aware that every
this is where that
job
meme comes
you've
from. Yeah.
ever had that you've been given, that your supervisor has said that you lack enthusiasm? And he said, no, but that sounds accurate.
Yeah.
How do you feel about your current job? I lack enthusiasm. I mean, I'm just
somebody
like,
somebody made a meme out of that with Daria, and it was perfect. Like they made, like, Daria was wearing Vault Tech colors. Like that's perfect.
he's gold. I
Um
mean, he is gold. I love that. I mean, he is
but what gets me is that
like,
they're
I
blaming
have
him for the Raider
no
attack,
qualms.
essentially. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. You guys were the ones that brought the Raiders in. It wasn't
Right.
his fault that
Well, they don't know that though. So nobody really knows where the Raiders came from first, because they're like, well, some doofus over there had to open the door. They
right,
don't
like
know that
somebody
yet
opened the
because
vault
we don't know who
and we're
opened the
just gonna
door yet.
blame you. And he kind of throws it back in their face. What exactly did he say? Yeah, but he basically he was like, well, or they're like, well, what
Well,
should
the
we do
thing
with
that
you?
I
And he's
liked
like,
that he
well,
threw in
you
their
can just
face was
demote
about
me again.
punishment.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, so this whole thing with like punishment, does that apply to the Raiders as well?
Yeah, he just says he said you punish vault dwellers, but not the people who
Who
murder vault
murder the
dwellers.
vault dwellers? Yeah.
Yeah. And they did not like that.
No, they're like, okay, we've got a job for you
That's
after
where
all.
she's, yeah, because they couldn't figure out what to do with him. They're like, well, we've already demoted you to like every single job in this vault and like nothing, and he doesn't care what job he does. He's like, I don't care. They're like, what should we do with you? He's like, I don't know, demote me. They're like, we've already done that so many
Right.
times. And he's like, whatever. He doesn't care. And so then he said something about the prisoners, and she's like, I got the job for you. So
So
next
he's
thing
delivering
we see that
food to the
he is now
prisoners.
delivering lunch to the Raiders, which honestly, I don't think was the worst thing for him. I
No.
think that actually was like a good thing for him because we already know he's the only one that pays attention to anything.
So he's definitely gonna try and get some more information from them if he's able to.
If he can be,
Yeah.
right now we're seeing that they're acting like caged animals.
Yeah.
They throw themselves
We
at
can
the
kill
windows, they
you.
throw their food, they're just jumping around on the
Yeah, 'cause that's
furniture like
productive,
a bunch of
guys.
apes or something. So it's not like they're cooperative. So that was interesting. And you see the other lady who's like the guard or whatever, and she's just like, "Okay, here's your lunch. All right, yeah, no, that's a utensil. No, you're supposed to no." This is like, she's just talking to them like, I don't know, like everybody's harried mother or a school teacher, like trying to calm people down, but you can't do anything about it. It's
Hmm.
like, it's kind of funny.
I mean, yeah, she's no umbrage.
No. Let me see, how much more do we have left?
We're just about halfway through.
Okay, so this is probably a good spot for us to break.
Yeah.
And so we'll be right back with more. See you soon.
Hi, welcome to Three Count Thoughts. Let me introduce the crew real quick.
Hi, I'm Maverick Stone.
I'm Romer.
And I am Jaxus. Join us as we talk all things wrestling. Each week, we'll take a topic from the wrestling world, knock it around a bit, and then go over the week in wrestling from a strictly fan perspective. We can be found on all major podcast catchers. We can also be found at 3 Count Thoughts on both YouTube and Twitter. Or you can send us an email using 3countthoughts@gmail.com. Okay, are you ready? Ring the bell.
And we're back. Okay. So now we're back in the desert. And party number 3, Max and Thaddeus are weirdly climbing trees.
Or at least
Max,
Thaddeus is.
well, Thaddeus is, yeah. Maximus has Thaddeus climbing a tree, which is not, it's obviously like some kind of a scrubby, I couldn't tell if it was like a pine or I don't know what it was, but it was definitely not an apple tree, but yet Maximus has Thaddeus climbing this tree looking for an apple to pick. And Thaddeus is doing it, probably knowing full well that this is not an apple tree, but he is going to find an apple on this tree for Knight Titus. And Maximus is just telling him, well, climb higher, climb higher. And eventually it gets to the point where Thaddeus falls out of the tree because he's too high and it's not.
And he gets the wind knocked out of him.
Yeah,
But still,
I'm
he's got a
surprised that he
smile on
didn't
his
get
face.
hurt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's laying there trying to catch his breath and he's like,
"Sorry, sir.
I have some rations. If you're hungry, I'll share them
Yeah.
with you. And Max is like, I'm not hungry anymore. So, okay. So then Thaddeus says, well, we should repair your radio so that we can call for reinforcements and help us, find the target. And Maximus says, no way. I'm going to find this myself. So Thaddeus is like, okay, no problem. And then he starts asking details about, okay, so what happened in Philly? Like, tell me about the target. And Maximus says, well, I had him, but then there was this girl and there was this ghoul. And Thaddeus is like, oh, ghouls. Yeah, I bet you shot him on sight. And he says, well, no, actually, I didn't. and, and so then Thaddeus is like, oh, well, okay. And he says, well, he wasn't a regular ghoul. And Thaddeus is like, oh, and Max says, well, if you find the ghoul, you find the target. And Thaddeus is thinking, oh, well, that's smart. Yeah, because they leave radiation trails. Oh, yeah, well, I'll just whip out this whatever instrument that we have, and we'll just follow those radiation those radiation trails. Good idea. This is, great. Good thinking. We'll just do that and we'll find him. Thaddeus knew nothing of this because we already know he kind of sucked in his classwork, and this is probably where they learned all this stuff. He wasn't really paying attention in those classes, so he probably didn't know all this, but hey, yay for him. His scribe's doing his job. So he got they picked up the trail, they started following it, and they find Wilzig's body next to the satellite. which is an interesting scene because, they're looking at it like, do you think that's him? I don't know. Is that him? So Thaddeus unfolds the picture, the little dot matrix picture that they have, holds it up to the body, and they're like, yep, that's him. That's him. What? I mean, is this how we make positive IDs now?
Well, and the dog was there too, so.
Well, the dog had been
Oh,
there.
the
The
dog
dog wasn't
was,
with
yeah, the
them,
dog
but
had been
maybe
there,
if they
sorry.
saw paw prints, they didn't comment on that, but
Yeah, because didn't he say that he saw tracks?
no, I think that was after when they were leaving.
But yeah,
But like
that
with the
crappy
body, I mean, just holding
drawing,
the picture
like
up to them,
holding the
like they're
drawing
looking at the
above the
body
head,
and they're like,
he's
I don't know, I
like,
can't
"That's it,
tell, I
that's
can't
it."
tell. But then they hold a picture of a head, the
Like,
guy's face up, and they're like, oh yeah, obviously that's him. That's it.
I mean, I guess that's what you have to do in the waste.
I guess, but I'm like, man, if that's all we had to do now, I mean, we don't need those expensive CSI people, like we'll just, yep, that's him. It's like, it's just crazy. I was just like, that's funny. So Thaddeus is like, well, should we take the body? But at least Maximus is like, well, no, I don't think we need it because, they left it. So it's obviously not important, which is true. We know this
Yeah.
because, we've seen everything. We know why the body is still there. But
So
Maximus
yeah, he was using his brain a little bit.
he did figure
they
that
wouldn't have
out.
left the body if they needed the whole thing.
Right. Yeah. He's like, no, they took the important part. It must be the head. So they took the part that they needed. So there's that. So they left the body there. And Thaddeus is like, well, do you think it was the girl or the ghoul who did this? Max is like, it was the ghoul, obviously.
Because why
Because
would Lucy wouldn't do anything
right,
like that?
he can't imagine that the girl would do something like that. It was obviously the ghoul because ghouls are hideous and nasty and disgusting and horrible things.
Well, the ghoul
So
would probably eat it in his mind.
yes. Yeah, yeah, could be. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like, if he ate it, and maybe they're misthinking this whole important thing, that's kind of strange. So while Thaddeus is trying to find the radiation signal, Maximus sees the footprints and just starts walking off in that direction. And then Thaddeus catches up. Of course, he's like, yes, this is the way to go. So then they trail off, and that's where they're headed, the same way as everyone else. So everybody is heading off the same direction past the Slocum Joes, and they're all off. And now we're back at Hollywood Boulevard. And the ghoul has Lucy tied up, and she believes she's being tortured. So she's, torture is wrong. You shouldn't be doing this. And torture, you can't
You got
do
a
this.
golden
And
rule.
yeah, she's telling him, oh, you forget the golden rule. And he's like, what's that? And she says, oh, treat others as you would have them do unto you. And he's just thinking to himself, like, sure. And
right.
he doesn't say anything. And he just keeps, doing what he's doing. And he
Dangling her
starts
above the lake.
dunking her. He was dangling her above the water, and then he dunks her, and then he pulls her back up, and she's like, oh, I don't know why you're doing this. And he tells her this. Well, they did a study on torture one time, and it made a lot of sense because if somebody was mistreating me, I wouldn't want to help them either. And they showed that torture doesn't work. And she's like, I know, I'm telling you it's wrong, and they keep going on. And that does make sense. Who wants to help someone when they're hurting you? But yet it's still done. And she says, well, why are you doing this to me then? And he says, I'm not torturing you, I'm using you as bait.
Right.
Punk.
Yeah. Duh.
And he dunks her
Trying to
back in the
lure the
water, and she's
gulper
going,
out.
oh my gosh, because the realization's hitting her. And now she's looking around and she sees the creature moving around in the water. And so and we noticed, I don't know if I noticed it before, we realized she was bait, but she has an anchor tied to her too. So he's got her tied to whatever he's using to lower her, some kind of a crane operated thing. And he's got an anchor tied to her, which I guess is his hook. So the gulper takes the bait and he gets Lucy's legs, right? And the anchor. He gets the anchor. He doesn't get her first. And the ghoul pulls them up, and then he manages to jump up
Yeah, it was a pretty impressive sight.
Yeah, he manages to jump up and you see the inside of his mouth,
Hmm.
all the
All those
finger
fingers.
appendages, things which are so nasty. And
Yeah.
a lot of people, when we first saw the previews and we didn't know what this was, and everybody was like, "Oh, that's a new monster.
I
That's
thought it
something
had to have
different."
been something new
We
because we've
did.
never seen anything like that
Right,
before.
because we had gulpers in 4, we have gulpers in 76, and they don't look like that.
Well, in the trailer, you don't even see its eyes. So we
Right,
didn't
we didn't
know
see
that it had
eyes. Yeah, you
eyes.
just saw you just saw the mouth and the fingers. It was like really all you saw was mouth and fingers. Then you saw like a farther out view of it
Not to
coming
mention
up
the
behind the
fact that
knife.
it was like flesh toned. It wasn't like green like you see in the
Yeah,
games.
76 they're green. I forget what they are in 4 because I haven't gone to Far Harbor yet. Or not Far Harbor. Yeah, Far Harbor. I
Yeah,
haven't
it's Far
gone.
Harbor.
So
I don't remember either. Uh,
it's the ones that you fight off in the fog.
yeah. I
But
played this with I played Fallout 4, like the
they're
DLC with the Fallout
probably
feed
green
last
there
year.
too, to
I would
be
imagine
honest.
they
It's
are.
probably they're probably very much the same as they are in
A lot of
76.
the
So they're very different.
creatures.
But there is an explanation later. Like there's an
Yeah.
explanation for everything.
And once I saw the explanation, I'm like, okay, I
It made
get that.
sense. It also makes like the coloring makes sense, all the appendages, everything makes sense. So there's an explanation, which we will get to. So we see this nasty thing, and the gulper manages to grab hold of Lucy's legs, and this is where she loses her shoe.
Yep.
And so she's grabbing, like, the ghoul is off. I forget what he was doing at the time. He's doing something with the crane, so he didn't catch this right away. And so she's trying to fight off this gulper from, holding onto her feet and legs. And she grabs the only thing that's nearby, which is the ghoul's saddlebag. And she uses it to, beat the gulper off, and it works. She gets her legs out of his mouth. She gets, he opens his mouth long enough for her to get out. But the problem is that when the ghoul notices later, because the gulper gets away, and he's mad about that, but then he reasons to himself that, well, gulpers have a slow digestion, we still have time. And then he notices that the saddlebag has, like the little box of his vials was in the saddlebag, and they are smashed to smithereens, and he is not happy.
Yeah.
He's not happy. She
At this
doesn't know
point, you still
why.
don't know what it is, but you
We
know that
don't
he
know
really
what it
needs it.
is. We know that like he was coughing and he used it and that helped him not cough anymore, but we don't know what that's for. We know that he's upset because obviously he needs whatever this med is. She knows nothing about it. And she's just like, well, what was I supposed to do? You did this, and so she's really mad, and he's mad at her, and she's like, well, you were going to let him eat me, and so she's not
Right. It's
happy.
like,
So he ties her up and starts walking her away. He's like, you're coming with me. And she's like, what now? Now he's got her tied up as like a prisoner. She's like, I don't understand. And he says, well, you're going to find out that the wasteland has its own golden rule. What is it? Thou shall be sidetracked by bullshit every time. And it's like, yeah, every Fallout game
right. It's like,
ever.
way to rub it in.
Every Fallout game ever. I mean,
Well,
I
not just
still
Fallout,
haven't
like,
found my son in Fallout 4.
how many people I know people who've been playing Skyrim for basically since it came out that still have not finished like the main quest.
I haven't found my son in Fallout 4. I've basically finished the game,
Wow.
except I have not. I've yet to go to the sea and find. No, I think I did do that.
Wait, so you've never been to the Institute?
I have.
Yeah,
I
because
have
you
been to
meet
the
him
Institute.
like pretty much like the first time really early on when you make it to
I
the
think I
Institute.
just went there and kind of snuck around a little bit, but I haven't done anything.
Okay.
I think I got, because I remember going there. I remember building the thing.
Yeah, it's such a
and
stark
going.
contrast compared to the Wasteland.
Yeah, but I think I've only been there like once, and I remember hiding out in a closet. I don't know. Who knows? It's been so long, because I think that was about the time that I started having trouble getting into my game because my builds were so big and my Xbox couldn't keep up. And so I just gave up. And now I'm excited to like start over on PC now that the refresh and all that stuff is done. So
Oh my God, I can't tell
Start
you
over.
how much it's improved my console game.
Yeah, I'm
I
sure.
because I could not walk around downtown
No,
Boston
you
without
couldn't.
it
It
without
would
it
crash.
crashing every few
I
seconds.
had to
Like even
walk
in Good
around
Neighbor,
downtown all the time. Yeah. It's
like
like,
walk
go the
around Good
long way.
Neighbor, if I'm there long enough, it would crash. But like with the Fallout feed, we did the survival roundtable last year, and I wanted to finish the game. I was assigned Brotherhood of Steel, and I'd never finished with Brotherhood of Steel. I'd done Railroad, I'd done Institute, finished with those, but I hadn't done Brotherhood of Steel, and I got to the point where I was so close to the end. You know, when you go to the mass fusion building, you take a vertibird there and you land on the roof. Every time there was this threshold when, like, while you're landing on the roof of the building, that it would crash every time. So I left that game unfinished. And after the update, I was able to finish it.
Oh, cool.
So thank you, Bethesda. I've had people come and it's like it didn't do anything. The update didn't do a thing. I'm like, are you
I've just seen people
crazy?
complaining about their mods, and it's like, we knew this. Like, where were
Yeah,
you living under a rock? I mean, you knew this was going to be a problem, and you just got to be patient and wait for your mods to catch up.
yeah.
It's just
I
like,
was like,
get over it.
I mean, I don't think it really improved a whole lot of things on PC. So
Probably
this
not.
one particular guy was like, "Well, are you playing on PC?" He's like, "No, I'm playing on Xbox," and it didn't do anything. It's like,
Really?
well, your story isn't the norm. I'm seeing
Yeah,
a
because
lot of people
that's what I've
saying
heard
it
is most
improved it.
most of the
So
people that I hear that it was like, yeah, it's so much better, are console players. Yeah,
don't
that's.
complain to me because I'm the wrong person. It stabilized my game, and the graphic
I wonder if I
improvements were
could pull up
definitely
my old game on
noticeable.
Xbox now. You know, maybe I
Yeah.
could. I don't know.
So
I might
just the
try it
fact that I could
sometime just for
walk up to the
kicks,
old corner bookstore
just to
was
go
a
see the old
big deal.
castle and
Yeah.
mansion again. I don't know.
Oh my God, walking through Boston with Liberty Prime while he's tossing nukes like a football. That was
Oh, that
awesome.
would definitely crash it. It's like too much going on.
Yeah, but I was able to do it.
Okay. Speaking of
Sorry, a little
Brotherhood,
side story there. Speaking of getting distracted by bullshit.
right? There, yeah, right there. But speaking of Brotherhood, segue in. Our next scene is with Max. Maximus, paranoid that Thaddeus is going to find out his identity. Uh, they're taking a water break, it looks like, and Thaddeus was talking about his former life. And he comments, he's like, "Oh, well, you must have seen some things." Because apparently Thaddeus worked at a shit farm or something.
Okay.
And because they would collect the flies and grind them up for protein. He says that's why I'm so fat,
Gross.
which Thaddeus really isn't overweight. So,
No.
but apparently he might be more nourished than a lot of wastelanders. So he's trying to, I mean, he's basically trying to do like Maximus did earlier and engage Knight Titus
Yeah.
in conversation, because I mean they're the only two people. They might as well chit chat, right? There's like nothing else to do, and I think Thaddeus is a talker. Um, and he's trying to replace the water tank or whatever that he's supposed to be drinking out of for Knight Titus, and Maximus gets, does this whole, "What are you doing?" Because he's so paranoid that he's going to be found out, that it makes him nervous to even have Thaddeus like touch his armor, because he's afraid he's going to get found out.
Yeah.
So he's a little jumpy, and Thaddeus is just trying to do his job and keep you hydrated, So they go ahead and they're sitting down, and I don't know which one brought it up about Maximus dying. But they're talking, and Maximus says, "Well, say something nice about it." Because he's like, "Oh, you knew him." And he says, "Well, yeah, he was my roommate or whatever." And he says,
Something like that.
he's like, "Well, say something nice about him." And he says, "Well, he was a good guy." And then he says, "Well, say something negative about him." And he's like, "Well, I mean, that feels weird because guy's dead and all, I don't want to talk bad about him." And he says, "But, he goes, we used to beat him up, and I feel bad. because we used to beat him up, and it wasn't personal. It was because, I used to be the one who got beat up, and then this new squad came in, and I was like, hey, everybody, let's go beat this guy up
It's
because,
a
it wasn't
vicious
me.
cycle, yeah.
Right. And he says, I just wish he lived long enough that he could have been the one to say, let's go beat that guy up. You know, he goes, I just wish that he could have had that opportunity. And of course, he's saying this about Maximus, thinking Maximus is dead, and Maximus is sitting there listening to this. So I think in a way that was kind of nice. And I think that's one of the reasons why he chooses to do what he does later in the show, which ends up being a mistake.
Yeah.
Well, but anyway, but he's listening to this, and he just tells him, he says, well, don't feel bad because it's, like you said, it's the law of the wasteland. And but I think it did help him to hear that it was not personal what happened to him, and that he probably could have been friends with these guys if because I
He
feel like
wasn't
he
the
just had
lowest
a
man on the totem pole, yeah.
well, I feel like he had a huge chip on his shoulder too. I mean, he always kept himself separate from these guys. I mean, it's like when they were all celebrating when Dane got his promotion. When they were promoted to squire first before they got injured, they were all kind of having their little celebration and everything. Well, he was off having his little temper tantrum with the potties. So, he could have been hanging out with them too, but he had this like chip on his shoulder, and he wasn't happy about, being passed over. So he just didn't want to hang out with them because, well, he didn't want to be happy for somebody else. So he was going to go be miserable by himself. And that's character flaw.
For sure.
So we go back to the vault, and the two councilmen who are, I don't know, they think they're co-overseers or something. They're discussing what to do with the prisoners, and they have different views on how they're trying to split the duties of being overseer. And they talk about, this is like their meeting, and they're talking about rehabilitating the prisoners. This is an idea that one of them had. And the other one's trying to go along as support, but he's also like, yeah, this isn't, I mean, he's not coming out and saying it's not feasible. He's just saying it's going to take some time, but they think that, so, we think that due to our reduced numbers that we could rehabilitate the prisoners and integrate them into our society, which is like kind of shocking. I would think that you want to bring raiders in with us. These people tried to kill us and you want to bring them in with us. And
Exactly, yeah.
you
That
see a
was
guy
really
who's like,
weird.
I could teach them Shakespeare. And, and somebody else is like, I could teach them calculus. And it's like, dudes.
They're not going to care at all.
Yeah, I mean, like, somebody needs to teach them basic table manners. I don't know.
And how to, proper
and I don't know if Norm said something or if it's just a look on his face or something. And they're like, well, what's your idea? And he says, well, I don't think it's our job to help them.
Right.
They're murderers.
He basically just wanted to kill them.
Well, he goes, why don't we do to them what they came here to do to us? And of course, everybody's just shocked. It's a clutch the pearls moment
You wanted
because
to actually kill somebody?
we can't be murderers. And he's like, why not? That's what they came here to do to us. So as they're having this meeting and they decide, well, we're going to adjourn. We're not getting anywhere with this. Some random guy runs in and says, I have information for the overseer. And they're like, what is it? And he says, oh, I think it's better to tell you in private. They're like, nope, tell us now. And of course we get, our water chip is destroyed. And with our current population plus prisoners, we're only going to make it a couple months. Da da da. Sorry, somebody just walked in. So
apparently your dog wanted to say,
she has to
announce that too. Yeah.
So so the water chip has been destroyed, and so now we have this on their plate. Funny thing is though, we don't hear anything more about this again. So apparently it's not that big of a deal. So, but it's a nice little nod to Fallout 1 that they kind of just tossed in. So then the overseers adjourn the meeting, and Lucy's friend Stephanie, who took the fork to the eye and lost her husband, she corners Norm and she says to him, well, if your father was here, he would do the right thing. which is kind of telling
Yeah.
Norm that obviously she wants justice and she doesn't think that justice is going to be done with these people. So she got ideas, you know, and Norm's just kind of taking it in. He doesn't really say anything. So we're back at Hollywood Boulevard. We bounce around a lot. I mean, if you ever watch
Yeah, this
Westworld, you
this
know
game you kind of
this
do
is
get
this is how we
whiplash
do.
because it's really like the scenes really aren't that long, and you're just back, forth,
Right.
back.
Yeah,
It's like,
you're
wait,
back and
what?
forth.
What's
I
going
mean,
on?
well, and you know that this is like everything's happening at the same time. So you got to be here and here and here, and this is what these people are doing like right now. So we're back at Hollywood Boulevard. Maximus and Thaddeus have picked up an abomination, and Thaddeus still believes he's following the ghoul, but now he's like they're wading out into the water. They're like waist deep, and he's like, you know, um, I might be tracking the wrong abomination. This might not be the right one. And so they're like, okay, let's rethink this. Let's like maybe backtrack or something for a minute when they hear a sound. And they're like, yeah, no, I think we got the wrong thing here. So Thaddeus offers to lead the charge. Remember back when they were in the cave with the Algui and Titus is like,
Yeah,
you go. And Maximus is like, no,
yeah,
you
it's
have
like, yeah,
armor.
it's like,
Thaddeus, who does not have armor, offers to lead the charge because he's like, well, this is my fault. I'll go first.
which how? But
And
whatever.
Maximus is, but for Maximus's sake, I mean, for his character, he says, no, you go back to shore. I'll take care of it. Which, to be fair, was, what he wanted Titus to do because, he didn't have armor. He shouldn't have been the one put in danger. So, Max tells him to go back to shore and he's attacked by the Gulper to the tune of In the Mood, which is really funny. So as the Gulper is about to like really take him out because his gun is not working or he runs out of ammo, I forget which. I think he ran out of ammo. Thaddeus shoots some kind of big gun from shore. Do you know what kind of gun that was?
I have no idea. I mean, I'd have to
I'm terrible
watch
at
it at
weapons.
least one more time, but
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
terrible at weapons, but he shoots him with something like a 50 cal from shore. It's a big gun, which does get it doesn't take the Gulper out, but it definitely gets his attention enough that I think, Maximus kind of got away. It distracts the Gulper from Maximus to Thaddeus. So Thaddeus is like, yeah, this is great. And then he's like, oh no, this is bad because he realizes it's coming after him. So the Gulper runs up on shore, grabs Thaddeus, and so he starts to try and eat him. So Thaddeus is like halfway down the Gulper's gullet. And now we have tug of war with Knight, Titus, Maximus, and the Gulper. And they're each like trying to pull, he's, trying to pull Thaddeus out of the Gulper. The Gulper's trying to grab him and go because this is dinner. So we're going back and forth, back and forth. And eventually we get Thaddeus out of the Gulper, which causes him to basically turn his, basically throw up his guts. He turns inside out, dies, and throws everything up inside of him, including junk and Lucy's boot and Welzig's head. So we see, they're all like, yeah, we made it. Yeah, we did it. And they're like, wait, what is that? And you look over and you see 4, which I don't remember if I mentioned that the ghoul, when he took Lucy, he took her off and she had said, what about the dog? And he said, it's not mine. They
yeah,
left the dog at Hollywood Boulevard and the dog's stuck there because 4 knows that that's where Wilzig is. So she was done with her journey. She
yeah,
was staying there. She'd found him. So she stayed at the shore there. Well, Knight Titus and Thaddeus found the head basically. And so she's over there licking the head because there's daddy. And they look over and they're
yeah.
like, is that
It was
the
really
head?
sad.
So now they're real happy because they have found the head. Now they have the head and Thaddeus didn't die and everything's all right in the world again. And Maximus doesn't have to kill Lucy. It's all good. The funny thing is, so I don't remember if I saw this on Twitter or Instagram, but there was a making of kind of thing, and I don't remember if Amazon Prime posted or who did, but it was the way that they filmed this was they built a model of the Gulper from like about the Gulper's waist up, and they actually had the character playing Thaddeus. I forget his name's Jonathan something. I think I forget now.
I don't remember.
Johnny Jonathan. I don't remember, but they had him suspended with cable, and it's because he's horizontal. So his half of his body's in the Gulper, and then you've got the knight holding the other side, and they're doing the tug of war between the prop guys manhandling the Gulper, and then the knight manhandling the character, the actor, and he's being suspended. And they had it rigged up so it would actually like barf up the water and stuff. So I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah,
They
really cool. I
actually
mean,
built that thing.
yeah, there's definitely some CGI in quite a few places, but
There is
they
some,
wanted
but
to rely on practical effects as much as they could.
well, that's what Nolan wanted. And so I think that was one thing that Walton Goggins said, was that he was surprised at how much physical props and how much
Yeah.
physical set that they had. Because, anymore, Hollywood's all about, you just show up and you just do everything in front of a green screen these days.
Mhm.
That's just how it's done now. And he said it was really nice to be able to go and walk onto a physical set, which I think would be a lot easier as an actor, to be able to do that. But I guess now it's all about like putting on the suit with the sticky balls or whatever, and then just doing stuff in front of a green screen, and that's how it's done now because they just CGI everything.
Yeah, I mean, you see behind the scenes with like Marvel movies, like even the
Mhm.
Spider-Man suit, a lot of the times is just a motion capture suit.
Yep, that's
It's
what I was saying.
kind
Like
of,
everything's motion capture. Yeah, and then they just
and
fill it all in later.
so I mean, you go into Fallout thinking that the power armor is, but
Mhm.
no, I mean,
It's a real suit.
yeah, it's a real suit. You see people walking around in power armor at the premiere.
Yeah.
I think so.
And the fact that he
Yeah,
could walk around and sit
yeah.
and everything in it, like he was able to move. Cause I mean, it seems like it's pretty unwieldy and like you're not going to be very mobile in it. But yeah, he was able to do that. So that is pretty cool. So our last scene is Ghoul and Lucy going across the desert. She's his prisoner. She's walking with one shoe on, one shoe off. And he stops and he's drinking water out of a canteen, and she's begging him, "Sir, please, I need water." And you can tell because, the way you can tell her mouth is
Yeah.
dry, her lips are dry, she's hoarse, and he's still just drinking out of his canteen. And then he just looks at her and he just dumps water on the ground. It's like, wow, that's just rude.
Right.
So
Yeah,
then they're
it's like,
going past some ruins, and I didn't notice this the first time I watched it. And then the second time I watched it, I realized that they're on the grounds of the studio. They're at it's the ruins of the studio where he made his movies, is where they are. They're passing through there.
yeah,
They walk past a bus that says I forget what studio it is. It's like whatever studios tours, and all the buildings there. And the reason I figured it out was because when you see him in the scene with his wife flirting, in the background, you see a certain statue. And when they are when they're passing through those ruins, you see that statue. So
oh, nice.
I
I
realized it
missed
was
that.
the same studio where he used to work. And they're walking through those ruins, and he's not saying much, and he's obviously not in a good mood. And they're passing through there, and her Geiger counter starts going off, and they come up to a pond, like just water, standing water. And she's looking at it because she's dying of thirst. And he says
Yeah.
to her, "Not much stays clean up here, Vaulty."
So
And she
he's
said,
trying to teach her the ways of the wasteland in a
"Well, he's
way,
trying
even
to
though he's
let her
being kind of a
know."
jerk about it.
Yeah.
But
Well, and he's kind of subtly making fun of her too. Like he's making fun of her, but he's also telling her like this is just how it is. And again, like Wilzik said, you're going to have to adapt. And it's just one of those things, like she's learning on the fly, but she's learning. But she tells him she says, is that what happened to you? And he says something like that. And then they're walking and she's looking up. She sees a Vault-Tec billboard and she's looking up at it like, she's a look on her face like she's probably thinking, oh, wow, I wish I was home. Like things were much simpler. And she, she's probably thinking all these things looking at the Vault-Tec billboard. And all of a sudden, little Vault-Tec boy's his little face gets blown away because the ghoul just shot him in the face. And you're like, wow, what was that about? And he doesn't say a word. But we go back to the scene where Cooper Howard is doing a photo shoot and he's wearing a Vault-Tec suit in his colors,
which was
blue
what they
and
were
gold.
alluding to earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is what him and his wife were getting ready for. She gave him the suit for the costume change for the photographer. And he's talking to the Vault-Tec people and he's like, well, I've never done an ad before. And he said, but my wife's never asked me before. So he's like, I'm not real sure what I'm doing. And the photographer's like, well, just do whatever, So they're taking pictures and he's doing different poses. And he says,
How about I do it?
well, yeah, he talks about the suit. He says, this is kind of tight. He goes, is this really going to keep radiation out? And they're like, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And he says, I want to thank you. You folks are doing God's work, keeping people safe. I mean, what? He obviously does not know what Vault-Tec is about, but
not at this point, no.
We know because, we know it from the back end. We don't know it from the front end, and we're learning about it from the front end, right? Which is cool. I love this, that we're learning this. And so he's like, oh, I want to thank you, all the suits, and they're all excited to be meeting him because they're meeting a celebrity. And he's like, oh, I want to thank you guys because you're doing so much to help the people. So he starts doing some poses and they're doing some different things. And he says, what about this? And he gives a thumbs up and a smile and boom, we have the Vault Boy. And that is our origin story for the Vault Boy. They promised we would get it. And there it is. Cooper Howard is the Vault Boy. He made it. The colors are based on his character. That's the Vault-Tec blue and gold colors came from him apparently. And the thumbs up smile is him. Probably the story, everything was his. So that is where we got our Vault Boy. They promised us the origin story and we got it. Because we've never been told anything about Vault Boy in any of the games. But now we know.
And then I can't remember who mentioned this, but after they said it, it made a lot of sense that Steph is kind of the quintessential Vault girl.
Yeah, okay, so that's the thing. I would make her more Vault girl. That she does look more Vault girl. Somebody on Facebook was trying to say that she was Nuka girl. That she might have been, because we don't know, like at this point, this is also kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but we don't know how she got into Vault 31. And somebody was saying, oh, well, she looks like Nuka girl, but she's not the right age. But saying that she's Vault girl might have been, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I can't remember where I heard that. It might have been the Fallout feed. It might have been some like online.
I mean, there's so much stuff everywhere. It's hard to,
it's
the same. But that makes a lot more sense than saying she's Nuka girl. It makes way more sense because if she was Nuka girl, she would work for Nuka Cola, and granted, Nuka Cola was I think owned by Vault-Tec. I don't think that would get her into Vault 31 as a bud. Spoilers.
No. We'll
Anyway.
get there.
We will get there. So anyway, join us for our next episode on episode 4, which we will bring to you soon.
Which that's going to be a heavy one.
Yeah, that probably will be a heavy one. Let me see. What are we looking at? I'm looking
It's the ghoul episode.
Oh, the ghoul episode. The ghouls. Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. I'm excited for that. Well, we'll be back with that one. All right, you guys. Hope you're enjoying this. Let us know. And we're excited. We'll talk to you later. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
This podcast is part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club, a program designed to help all podcasts reach their full potential. For information about joining the Robots Radio Rocket Club, check out robotsradio.net.